Afternoon, Tom. Welcome. Wrestling Ramblings podcast here with Muskie and the Professor, the Tom Shifflet, right over there. Tom, what an exciting day here! Friday, opening ceremonies of the 2024 Paris Olympic Games. It's a great time of the year. Great wrestling coming up very soon. Very soon. I know we got a lot of things to talk about today. How you feeling? What's new? What's cooking?
Another great day. And as you said, yes, opening ceremonies tonight. We got a great show ahead of us here today. We got a special guest coming in.
I love special
I did
guests.
want to revisit last week. We had a little hiccup with some audio at the end of last week's podcast, and we were talking about sweeping the corners and train grounded. So we're going to revisit that. But today, with the Olympics coming up, we're hot and heavy with that. We want to make sure that we're bringing some people on, and we're talking more about the upcoming competition.
Great. That's exactly what Wrestling Ramblings is about. Bringing you stuff that you haven't heard about, interviewing people and doing those things. All right, so let's wind it back. The Scooby-Doo ending. Let's take it all the way back to the last podcast. Segment 4, we talked about train grounded and sweeping the corners. Pick it up from there, Tom. Let's go back. Let's go back to sweeping the corners. What's the philosophy behind it? What's training grounded? Take it right from there and let's build it up again.
Well, the train grounded and is basically a philosophy that I have when it comes to training off of the mat, or really if you're in any sport. What we're doing off the mat, making sure that it transfers back to the field or the wrestling mat, and then sweeping the corners. Obviously, the details. That if you're going to do something, you want to make sure that you're doing it properly in the right way. Paying attention to the things that really are going to make a difference, and that's what's going to separate you from everybody else. So that's really what sweeping the corners is, and that's train grounded.
All right, let me ask you this: where did the train grounded system come from? I know it's you've taken a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and you put it all together. Is that what happened, or you were exposed to it, or it's just something that came to you naturally?
Yeah. Well, I mean, having been an athlete, having been a coach, having been in the fitness industry for a long time, been around just some great mentors, and just taking a number of
Wrestling, fitness, all those, right?
taking a lot of that information that I've learned from others and putting something together that I really believe is sustainable. There's a guy I met, George Bonnet. He made 5 Olympic Games for Puerto Rico, 2 in judo, 3 in bobsled, and he made a major impact in my life. And we can talk more and more about him, how his impact it was on me and this train grounded program. But we definitely want to talk about our special guest today because we got him coming on here at the top of the hour, and that obviously is Lou Roselli.
Wow.
Sweet Lou, our very own Lou Roselli here
From Royalton, Heartland.
That's right.
Wrestled back when we were both wrestling.
That's right.
That's
Great. So we thought, obviously, with tonight, with the opening ceremonies, I've known Lou for a long, long time. We go back to Pee Wee wrestling. Him and I, we wrestled together in college. I was just there recently with my daughter and her friend at his house. He took time to train those 2 girls and help them with their freestyle wrestling. But what Lou brings to the table today, not only that he's from Section 6 and a good friend of ours, but he's got a great perspective on Olympic wrestling. He was an Olympian himself. In 1996, made the Olympic team, and has obviously coached, been a part of 2 Olympics as a coach, and that was, I believe, in 12 and 16. So getting him
3 gold medalists.
Yeah.
3 gold medalists he coached. I mean, geez, it doesn't get any better than that, Tom. And he's been in the college game. He's excelled at every level. He's coached at every level. Obviously, a freestyle specialist, which is great, which fits right in with Wrestling Ramblings that we're talking about. Boy, it's going to be exciting to talk to him. Let me ask you one question that'll fit right in there. He knew how to sweep the corners, huh? That's what made him special.
Yeah.
Kind of like you, the professor. That he's at a whole different level. It was fundamentals. It was what? Just build off that.
Well, he was one of the individuals. I mean, he was one that we when we were young, we started wrestling. We were in little kids wrestling. Going to tournaments. We were sometimes the last match of the tournament. wrestling against each other.
The last match usually it's the heavyweights, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, but yeah,
It must have been a lot more. Must have been a lot more little
Yeah,
guys back
that's right.
then than
That's
the big
right.
guys. But okay.
So, but I ended up going to Edinburgh. And one of the main reasons was Lou was doing really well there, and he was really focused and motivated. And when I went there on a recruiting visit, it just really kind of hit me that this was a great fit for me, and it really was. I mean, I obviously, like I said, I've got a great relationship with him, but I kind of followed his lead. When he worked out, I wanted to work out. So he kind of, when I got to the college level, Division I wrestling level, he kind of brought me along and showed me, what I needed to do in order to be successful. And then when he graduated a couple years earlier than I did, he got into training to become an Olympian, make the Olympic team, make the world team. So he won a number of U.S. Opens. But you just were not going to deny Lou. I mean, his determination was something that was, you couldn't measure it, quite honestly. You weren't going to tell him that he couldn't do something. He was very, very driven, and it motivated me. He motivated a lot of people that were around him because he led by example.
I mean, the Fighting Scots of Edinburgh University. Think about it. I mean, you didn't even mention Bruce Baumgartner was your coach.
Yes.
Holy
Yeah.
smoke. 4-time Olympic medalist, one of the most decorated Olympic wrestlers of all time. And, here he is making the Olympic team, you wrestling the Olympic trials. They had it going on back then.
Yeah.
Edinburgh.
Yeah.
And they brought in all Olympians. It seemed like they had the right mix. They had, maybe it was train grounded back then. Maybe that, like you said, maybe that was the inception. It started there.
Right.
And it all came together. But I mean, the Fighting Scots of Edinburgh,
Yeah.
right? So, hey, here's a funny one. Did he take a picture with the kilt? Or I know I asked you that the other day. You know what I mean? Or was that after?
I think it was
that,
after. I think
okay,
it was a little
okay.
bit after.
Well, come on. You got to have a little fun with that.
Yeah.
The wrestling fans like to hear about the kilt. But, I can't wait to speak to him.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember watching him and standing on the opposite side of him in a tournament. He wrestled in the Sweet Home tournament like we did. He won it 3 times. Mm-hmm. Wrestled in the States, had some monumental, unbelievable matches there. Then went on to college and found a way to win. EWL champion, all those things. Wrestled in all these great events and an Olympian. I mean, wow. From our very own Western New York. That's kind of amazing.
I mean, if you think about his experience as a wrestler, as an athlete, as a coach, and he's obviously a great family man too. But I would say he's probably from Section 6, the most decorated person that we have had, wrestler from this area, and because of what he's done as an athlete and as a coach, and then obviously following him would probably be Alex Conti, who I believe we're going to have on next week to follow up on some more of this Olympic wrestling. So,
yeah, that's. Hey, folks, Wrestling Ramblings right here. Tune in. You don't want to miss all this great Olympic action we're going to talk about, and you're going to get a perspective today that you never really thought you could. Thanks, Tom, for reaching out to your good pal Lou, and we can't wait to get him on. And he's got some good questions. He'll provide some insight. And here's the best thing: he was there. He knows what the opening ceremonies are like. I mean, we watch it. Can you imagine the sense of pride? Look, I got my Olympic team hat on today. I got it at the Olympic trials when I went there. I mean, come on. Wrestling is such a great sport, Tom.
Yeah.
Think about all the friends that we have and all the people that we meet, all the Olympians. These are the people that we dreamed, and they helped us and brought us along. Just like you said, we aspired to be to that level.
Yep.
But thinking, doing, and achieving are all different levels. And we're going to talk to somebody who's
That's right.
done it all. And guess what? He's even closer than where he was before, right? He just got hired as the assistant coach at Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Wow, a hotbed of wrestling,
Right.
like we were talking about Pennsylvania last week. So, hey, he came over he was at Oklahoma, now he's over here. He was in Columbus. I mean, he really didn't, he's always been around.
Yeah.
And I know last thing, it was so great to have him at the coaches clinic last year, Tom, when you had him in here. He was the star of the show. He just showed a lot of great things, a lot of great people. He interacted with everybody just like we're talking to one another.
Well, we
like
talk
friends.
we talk about being able to connect with people, and that's one thing Lou is really, really good at. So when it comes to connecting with an athlete or his peers, he does a really good job. Part of it is he doesn't sugarcoat things. He kind of lets you know directly how he feels, but you know that if he says something to you, it's with passion, because he's very driven. He really is out for in the best interest of who he's coaching or who he's working with. So, again, we're excited to have him on here.
Well, here's deep thought about that. It's not always the message, it's the messenger.
Yeah.
He's a great messenger.
That's right.
And he delivers the message. Win, lose, or draw, he's going to tell you what it took, what it's going to take, and how to get there. And then you have to figure it out. And he's done that. Look what he did at Ohio State. I mean, everywhere he's been, he's making it work. He's doing those things. So, hey, that's what's coming up next. We're going to get excited. So, anything else before we get ready to talk to Lou?
No,
Anything
we'll
else?
take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll have him on. We'll get to it.
Well, there it is, folks. The professor said, let's take a quick break. So we'll be right back after this brief message.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA, with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics.
For an efficient, personal approach for all of your transportation needs, more information about our Buffalo office is available at logisticsplus.com/Buffalo.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Welcome back to Wrestling Ramblings with Muskie and the Professor, Tom Shifflet. We got a great guest right here. Lou Rosselli, hometown hero, Olympic wrestler. Unbelievable. Welcome to the show, Lou.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm going to hand it over to the professor because I know he's got some questions for his teammate. And take it away, Tommy.
Yeah, I know we're short on time. You got practice today, Eric, and but wanted to get your perspective on the Olympics with the wrestling fast approaching. Wanted to see what your thoughts were on obviously the freestyle men's and women's teams, and obviously there's been some shakeup with Russia not being in the Olympics, but obviously you've been an athlete. You made the 1996 Olympic team, and then you've coached at 2 other Olympic games. I think it was 12 and 16. So it's great to have you on, obviously, and give your perspective. So let us, give us the good word on these 2 teams that we have here that are competing.
Well, I think all 3 disciplines are, obviously I know the most about the freestyle. Freestyle team, they're down to 6 weight classes, and I think each weight class is going to be, I think the USA team in freestyle will be, all those guys that made the team will be in contention to win a gold medal. Spencer Lee and Aaron Brooks, I think, at 86 and 57 kilograms. I think that they're newbies, and the way they do it now with the seating and everything, so it looks a little bit different. It used to be a blind draw, but I think that they're all so good that they're all in contention to win. I mean, if Aaron Brooks can beat, David Taylor off the team, then he's in contention to win. And Spencer Lee has always been phenomenal. I think Kyle Snyder and Mason Paris, they have. Kyle's got 8 to 10 medals already, so he's always a favorite. 65 kilos I think is the toughest, just because there's a lot of 65 kilos, 143 pounds around that are in the world. That's a tough weight class. We had to qualify 57 and 65 late, but I think that he's a world champion at 70 kilograms, and I think that he is always a threat. I just think that there's a lot of competition at 65 kilograms. And for the women, knowing Terry Steiner, I've known him for a long time. He's a national freestyle coach. He always prepares these women. Helen Morales is, she's won gold. She won gold in 16 when I coached in Rio. So I know that she'll be in contention. But Kennedy Blade, so there's plenty of women I think that are going to do well. I think Greco has 1 seed with Adam Kuhn at heavyweight. But I think it's just who's running hot, and who's ready for this event. And I think that
So
it should be interesting.
Do you think Japan is right now on the women's side is the team to beat?
I would say yes. I mean, they've been a
Okay.
favorite for a long time, and they've had a lot of girls that have just done so well in multiple winners. Like they win, back to back to back titles in World Olympics, and so I would say that they're the team to beat. And I don't follow it probably as closely as maybe some other people, but from what I understand, yes, Japan is always going to be a hard team to beat when it comes to
And
the
and
Worlds
and
or
you
Olympics.
would you put USA as a team to beat
They'll
on the
be in the
men's
thick of it,
side for
though. Yes,
freestyle?
USA Wrestling. Yeah, women's freestyle wrestling will be right there. I'd be surprised otherwise. Like I said, I think it all goes into the preparation. I think that Terry Steiner has done a fantastic job, and Bill Zanuck has done a fantastic job in getting those two teams ready. I don't know as much about the Greco, so I can't really speak on that part
Right,
of it. I'm sure there's people that
right,
can give you a better understanding of the Greco than I can.
right. So, can you give a little perspective? Because obviously we talked about Spencer Lee and Zane Rutherford making it to the Olympics, actually qualifying the weights. I mean, can you talk a little bit about maybe how difficult that was from preparing for the Olympic trials, then having to go overseas and compete and actually get to where they're at today, and how difficult maybe that is?
Yeah, I think both of them had to. I think you had to be in the top three, and what they normally do to win a medal is they do go down both sides of the bracket, so you can get two bronzes, and then they take the two bronzes to wrestle for the true third. And Spencer made the finals, and Zane wrestled for a true third and won, and I think that was difficult. But I would say this: after their Olympic trial experience, you don't want to put that in someone else's hands. So if you didn't qualify, then there's only one person you can kind of blame. It would be yourself. You just weren't ready or something. You just didn't wrestle your best. But they both got the job done, and all six are there. So I think it's positive on all fronts.
Right, right. All right, so let's shift gears here, because obviously we're talking about the 2024 Olympics, but I want to talk about the past, and obviously you having been on the 1996 Olympic team, if you can just give us a little bit of when a fond memory of the 96 games. Obviously that's probably something unbelievable to be a part of. And then also, if you followed up with a coaching at a couple other Olympic games, maybe give a little perspective on the experience from an athlete and a coaching perspective.
Well, I think as an athlete, I think that's everybody's dream is to make the Olympic team, right? I mean, when you're in amateur sports, and so making the team is obviously, and it's very difficult in wrestling. We only take one person. So, and when I wrestled, there was 10 weight classes. So, making the team, I think it's always a challenge. But now there's 6 weight classes, so that makes it even tougher. So, as an athlete, but I think that the Olympic Games is everybody's dream when you're a kid if you're in sports. So, I think the experience that I had, it was bittersweet. I think I was 2-1 at the Olympic Games. I got hurt, so I didn't get to finish the competition. So, it was a great experience to be a part of some things as an athlete. Now I've been lucky. God's been good to me. I had the experience as an athlete, and then I had 2 experiences as a coach. And they both have pressures, but they're just different. As an athlete, your whole life is wrestling and trying to win gold. And then as you get there as a coach, you get a very similar experience as stress. It's not as stressful, but when you have athletes that want to win, an Olympic championship, and their goal becomes your goal. And so I think there's stress in performing and making sure that they have everything they need to perform at their best ability. And so I think it's a different stress, but they're both great experiences, and I'm glad I got the opportunity to be a part of on both sides of that. To see somebody win the Olympics and Kyle Snyder, and then obviously being a part of it myself as an athlete. But they're very stressful. I mean, everyone thinks it's all fun and games until you're in the moments. And
Right.
but I think I don't think I could ever sit and complain about any of those opportunities. Being on both sides of those, making them on an Olympic team, and then obviously having guys that I had some Tervel Delagnev, who coaches at Nebraska, is now he was in the 12 in the London and in the Rio, and then Kyle Snyder obviously made the Rio. So they were both fantastic opportunities, and I was glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I obviously was at the 1996 Olympic Games opening ceremonies. I thought it was the coolest event ever, and I was got the opportunity to watch you compete in '96. So I have my own memories, obviously, of the Olympics, and now as a fan, from someone who sits in a fan seat, it's just great to hear the stories, and obviously coming from someone that I know so well, his experiences, coaching some of the top athletes in the world. It's pretty incredible, actually. So appreciate you sharing that perspective. But I want to ask you, obviously New York State just approved girls freestyle wrestling. We're the first state in the country to approve that on the high school level. And obviously I appreciate you. I brought my daughter Eloise to you a couple times in the last few months to do some training for freestyle. I'm lucky enough to have that. And but I wanted to get your feelings on it. Obviously, with girls wrestling in the Olympics, I think since 2004, and then college wrestling is women's freestyle wrestling. Do you think that was a great to
Oh, I lost you.
have it be freestyle versus?
Tommy, I think I get the gist of your question. For a second there, but yeah, one of the things I think of instantly is, one, it's good to be like the trailblazer in that for New York State, to have freestyle wrestling, in the high school, and I think those are great opportunities for those girls, and I think that, women's wrestling and girls wrestling is growing at such a quick, it's growing exponentially how fast it grows, but I think that the girls getting the opportunity to do that. Obviously, there's some high school wrestling that goes on across the country, but doing it in the discipline that you're going to do it in the Olympic Games, and especially at this time of year, it's really a neat time for them because they get to see some people compete at the Olympic Games, and that's what they're trying to do. And so now that they're starting to understand, and as you know, people are it's new, so and freestyle wrestling is not new, but doing it in high school for the girls is new. So I'm sure the high schools are going to get some people that just are beginners. But I think this is a fantastic time to do that, seeing how it's the Olympic Games, and they get to see some star power and what they could be. So the potential, but I think that's all part of that growth process for the girls and women's wrestling.
Yeah, I mean that's a great that's a great thought right there about how with the Olympics now these young ladies that are thinking about wrestling freestyle or have been wrestling folk style and have to transition into freestyle, um, getting to see some women at the biggest stage compete for gold. What a motivator! So awesome.
Yes, for sure.
Um,
Getting to
so
see
hey,
that, I think, is
go ahead.
good. No, I was just gonna say, get these young women that get to see that, that's what ignites them. I think, I mean,
Yeah.
if there's ever going to be some ignition, it'll be watching somebody that was a star and wanting to be like that, And I think that, 1 minute you're watching it, and the next minute you're in it. So, it'll take some time to get to that level, but that's the goal for some of them.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned on last week's podcast, I said it'll be interesting to see because Fargo just ended, and we have our participation numbers for the girls who go to the New York State Freestyle State Tournament, who then they qualify obviously for Fargo, and then you go out to Fargo and obviously you're trying to become an All-American, get on the podium and win a medal. Um, but I mentioned last week, I said it'll be interesting to see now that really freestyle for girls on the high school level is 12 months. We should see, I'm thinking from a wrestling perspective, an uptick in a number of medals or participation because we're doing it all year. It's repetition. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at something. Same thing from a coaching perspective. I think, the more we're involved in women's and girls freestyle wrestling, the better we're going to get at coaching them. So I'm excited to see what happens down the road here. But I thought I'd kind of share that with you because that was a thought I had last
Yeah,
week.
I agree. I think the more growth, you'll have the more competitors, the more opportunities, the more tournaments, the better the girls will get, the more practices they attend. I just think it's just going to continue to expand,
Yeah.
and as it expands, I think that those opportunities become more and more for them, and seeing it, get high school freestyle wrestling going, and then other states do it, and then pretty soon there's a lot of opportunities for them to compete at high level.
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, listen, I'm going to let Joe chime in here and ask you a couple questions. But we want to go way back to the Section 6 days, Luke, because obviously you're from Buffalo. So,
Well,
That's a long time ago.
Well, let's kick it off with a good Section 6 memory. You and Tom wrestling and little kids wrestling. What do you recall
Oh yeah.
about that?
Well, when we first
You
started
know.
wrestling, he would tell you he handled me most weekends. I mean, but the good news is every weekend we probably competed. No, I mean not that many tournaments, but let's just say this: there was a lot of times that in that little kid wrestling that Tom handled me. No, there's no question about that. As we got a little older, then I think the tides turned a little bit. So I'll just keep it at that. There's no.
Well, he speaks very fondly of you and that you helped him develop the person he is when you got to Edinburgh. So kudos to you for not, poo-pooing him, but that's great. Uh, you, you had a great high school coach. What did that mean to you? He was wonderful to all of us, Tom, myself, and you. But take a minute to talk about your high school coach. What a great guy Dick Lang was.
Dick Lang was just. I think I think people think it was just because I was successful that he was. It was about you know he liked me more, and I don't really think that's the case. I think he liked that I was into wrestling because he was into wrestling, but he was just good to a lot of people. I think he taught that the same nature that he's just good to everybody. If you're into wrestling and whatever you need, he was a guy that was willing to help and do that. And I've seen him take a lot of people and help them even though they weren't very grateful for those opportunities. It's like help a lot of young people to you know do what he did. He's passed on now, and I'm sure he's looking down, hoping that Section 6 becomes a star place to wrestle again.
Yeah, that's our hope. I have one more question to follow up. We've been talking on the podcast about folk style and converting into freestyle wrestling. What advice can you give young coaches, especially the ones who are going to be coaching our girls? Some of them are apprehensive. I figure let's hear from the best. You,
Well,
tell them what you
you know
think and how it can just happen if they keep working and want to get better and go to clinics like when you came here to put on a clinic. The people that were there got better.
I think the first thing I think of, about that, we're talking about coaching anyone, coaching young girls, coaching men, coaching boys, is just, you got to be a believer, and you got to believe things can happen. And if you put the time and energy into it and you continue to get around the right people, I think that good things happen. And I think it's just the consistency of that, and if you're around the right people, they'll teach you how it works and how much energy it's going to take. And then you have to decide whether you want to do all that. And I think that when you're around a certain group, certain types of people, that it's it's the best way to get yourself going. It's the best way to get yourself improving. Getting around good technicians, getting around people that do things the right way, getting around people that work really hard and consistently, getting around people that creating that culture and that environment for young people. But also being patient, because it's not just going to happen overnight. I think people think
Excellent.
they're just going to win tomorrow. It's like that's not going to happen. It's going to take a little bit, but it can be done. If you believe in that, you know, that's the best thing I can say to any young person. That can be done. It's just going to take some energy and it can take some time. But don't give in too easily. You could do it.
Yeah.
Great. That's great advice, and thank you for doing that. My last question for you is this: before we started the podcast, you were talking about the opening ceremonies, and the opening ceremonies are there, but you had a little different perspective because you were cutting some weight.
Yeah, I
Give
think
us a
that
quick synopsis about that.
when we did the opening ceremonies, they had us in like a little holding tank until we were the last team to enter because it was in America. It was in Atlanta, so we were the last team to come out. So we were kind of in an area where they had a little holding tank, and when you're cutting weight and it's hot in Atlanta and you're outside, it was a little draining, but obviously not so draining about for the competition just in general, waiting it out. But I just think when you're cutting weight, and it just gives you a different perspective on the sport. When you got to make a certain weight and you're not quite there yet. But all in all, I mean, the opening ceremonies today will be a great day. I think that um, it'll be fun to watch them. You'll see, your peers and friends and people that come on out, and like I said, it's the kickoff, so should be fun.
All right, last question. We'll let you go because I know you got practice, Lou. But obviously, going back to Section 6 wrestling and you growing up and wrestling at Roy Hart and going to the state championships and just being a part of different things in the community involving wrestling. What's one of your fondest memories of Western New York wrestling, Section 6? We've got a lot of wrestlers, a lot of participants, and what's something that I guess that you can share or that you've always remembered and think about?
Well, obviously, Middleport, New York is a small place. Royalton, Heartland's a small area. As you know, I didn't wrestle out of a 90-mile radius most of the time. A couple times, but not like they do today. Today they're all over the country. I didn't have those opportunities. So I think when I think of Royalton Heartland wrestling, I think of Coach Lang and working out all summer long. And sometimes it'd be at the high school, and I think about his garage and wrestling with him in his garage. For um, you know 45 minutes to an hour straight. It's like those are the times that I think that the good times. When it's just one on one and having lemonade afterwards with him and talking about wrestling and the opportunity that he gave me to just come up and practice, whether it was at his house or a couple times a week, in the summertime at the high school. But he was all in, and so I think that made me all in.
Yeah, yeah. So just like you said, being around the environment's that's gonna help you get to the next level, and Coach Lane provided that for you. Um,
100%.
yeah. Okay. Well, listen, again, Lou, thanks a lot. I mean, obviously, again, we mentioned we got the Olympics coming up. We're going to continue to talk about that here on the podcast the next few weeks. But it was nice to get you on prior to the start to get your perspective on the different wrestlers that are going to be, competing. And obviously, just happy to have you on because you're from Western New York. You're probably the most decorated wrestler we've had, and uh, it's just great to be able to have you get on here and talk with us.
Yeah, and Lou, thank you.
Yeah.
You've been a great great ambassador for our sport, for Western New York, and all those things. I've enjoyed watching you my whole life, and I'm glad to call you a friend. So keep on keeping on. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for representing the United States of America. I know that was your dream, but we love you. Thank you.
All the best,
Appreciate
Lou.
you guys. Go
All right.
Buffalo.
Yep.
Yep.
We'll see you guys.
Bye bye.
See you. Take care.
Yep.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Do you insure a lot of businesses?
Yes, we do.
How about restaurants?
We got a bunch.
Do you cover property damage?
Yes, we do.
How about my equipment?
Covered.
How about sewer backup?
We got it.
What if my cook gets hurt?
They're covered.
Foodborne illnesses?
Covered.
What if my party tent goes down?
Covered under property damage.
And you say this is all under one policy?
One policy.
When do I pay?
Once a month.
Just one time?
Just one.
Is there anything you don't cover?
What's your record for consecutive questions asked?
31.
Tables. We don't do tables.
Gotta love Buffalo.
For more information, visit www.paulwolfagency.com.
Welcome back to Wrestling Ramblings with Muskie and the Professor, Tom Shifflet. Wow, what a great segment with Coach Lou Roselli
Yes.
down in Pittsburgh. Thank you, Tom, for taking the opportunity to talk to your friend and get him to talk about it. I had chills talking to him.
Yeah. Well,
I just remember back watching him wrestle, watching you wrestle. It brought me back it gave me those warm, fuzzy feelings. So
Yeah.
I know.
well, he was our first guest, so I think it also having somebody else come on and talk about the history of Western New York wrestling or being a Section 6 wrestler or talking about their experience out in the world and of wrestling, their own experience, I think is great. It brings another something pretty fun to the show.
Isn't that what
Yeah.
Wrestling Ramblings is about?
That's
We've
it.
been telling people we're
Right.
going to get great. We're going to get great guests. We're going to
Yep.
talk about everything. There's a Section 6 champ. There's a New York State champ like yourself. We're just going to have them keep coming. So make sure you're tuning in, listening to Wrestling Ramblings and doing these
Yeah.
things. This segment here, we're going to keep building on the Olympic theme, Olympic memories. Anything
got
that we could. Whoa.
I got one. I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The Professor is going to profess. So
Yeah.
let him go.
Yeah.
Please take it away.
So I'm going to try to shorten it as much as I can, but it really has something to do because Lou was, our guest and he was talking and it reminded me of a story of the '96 Olympics because I
In
graduated.
Atlanta.
Yes, in Atlanta. So I graduated from Edinburgh and had decided at that point I wanted to be a college coach, and I still wanted to wrestle. So after graduation in '95, I ended up becoming the assistant coach at Georgia State University in Atlanta, and I was making I got the best salary, $5,000 as my first coaching salary. My dad was like, Tom,
Ooh,
you
$5,000, ladies and gentlemen. He won the grand
that's right. That's right.
prize.
But hey, it was an opportunity, and I took it, and I had a lot of fun. But that kind of goes along with the story. And obviously, at Edinburgh, Bruce Bumgardner, he's the winningest wrestler in U.S. history.
2 golds, a silver, and a bronze.
And he's got 13, I think, all 13 medals altogether, world and Olympic. But again, I went to Edinburgh, and he became the head coach and coached me, and was an unbelievable mentor. Still a really good friend of mine. But he made the 1996 Olympic team. Now, I did make the Olympic trials in '96, and they were in Spokane, Washington. Prior to that, obviously, I was working at Georgia State that summer. I started that spring, going. I moved down there, started coaching a little bit, and was training. And the '95 World Championships were in Atlanta. So, anyways, I did a year. The World Championships were there in '95. '96 rolls around, and I was training a lot. I ended up qualifying for the Olympic trials. And just prior to that, I knew Kurt Angle really well because Kurt would train with Bruce Bumgardner all the time. Now we're talking about Kurt Angle, the
From Clarion.
WWE.
Right, but he
Yep.
wrestled, but let's keep it real. He
Yep.
wrestled at Clarion University, and
Yes.
Clarion has its own great history
Yes.
of NCAA wrestling. So here's another great Clarion Golden Eagle.
Yeah, I mean, Clarion was a top 10, the top 10 program. I mean, the Pennsylvania State schools, when I was wrestling,
The PSACs.
Edinburgh, yeah, the PSACs, Edinburgh, Clarion, Bloomsburg, Lockhaven. I mean, it was a battle.
Hard
But
hitting.
yeah, so Clarion had a heck of a team, and Kurt was their heavyweight. Ended up winning 2 or 3 national titles, and obviously would after graduation got into freestyle and would come to Edinburgh. He'd live with me for a couple weeks while he was training with Bruce. I got to know Kurt really well, and obviously Lou was my teammate. So, and Bruce was my coach. So we go to the Olympic trials in '96, and just before then, I was already living in Atlanta. I said to Kurt and Lou, I said, hey, would you guys be interested? I'm gonna maybe do a camp during the Olympics because um,
The star power is there.
yeah, and I was coaching at a high school part time, their club, McEachern High School, which was in Powder Springs, Georgia. So they said, yeah, let's do it. Let's get it. Because anytime you can make an extra few dollars, you do it. And,
Especially back
you
then.
weren't, yeah, back then you weren't making a lot of money being a full time wrestler, barely any at all. So they were all, and at this time, again, they had not made the Olympic team. So we would go to the '96 trials, and Bruce makes the team, Kurt Angle makes the team, and Lou makes the team. And I was like, wow,
That's called the trifecta,
yeah,
ladies and
yeah,
gentlemen, right there.
that it was really exciting that whole summer leading up to the Olympics. So fast forward, we get to the Olympics. I at the time was living in a trailer park because I had met a guy he was very supportive of Georgia State athletics. He owned a trailer park and an apartment complex in College Park, right next to the airport in Atlanta. And so I would clean the pools, and in return for cleaning
The professor,
pools,
the pool cleaner. Wow.
I
Professor and pool cleaner.
That's
Yeah,
right.
take that to the bank.
So in return, I got to live rent free in a trailer,
If it's free, it's you, Tom.
Douglasville, Georgia.
All right.
Yeah. So everybody came down for the Olympics. We were going to have this camp. So Lou, obviously, I go to the opening ceremony, and I had a badge to get into
Because
all
you,
the.
you provided some work, some manpower
Yes,
at
I
the
did.
Olympics, right? I
That's
mean, Tom, that's a dream of mine.
that's right.
Listen, I'm envious.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I mean, I'm not trying to cut you off. I just let you collect your thoughts. But I mean, that's a goal
Yeah.
to do those things. If you love wrestling, you were a part of it, and you
Right.
got the badge. I mean, wow, that's great. So
Right.
go ahead.
Right. So I could go and watch the wrestling. I could really watch any sport
Except
uh,
basketball, as you said.
except basketball. So we had a great time, and I had set up the camp during the Olympics. I don't know. I remember all the details, but Lou wrestled, and Lou unfortunately had a major injury. I think it was his second or third match, he broke his arm, and he couldn't continue the tournament. Well, the next day he was going to be working at my camp, and I was like, I don't expect him to come in. You know what I mean? This guy's going through a lot. He didn't get to, achieve his goal of winning a gold medal, and um, I kind of felt bad, and I did feel bad. He's a really good friend of mine. He was my teammate, and I know how hard he works. So it was, I know he was disappointed, so anyways, he's like, no, no problem. I'll come. And he obviously didn't really show a whole lot of moves. He was hurting pretty bad, but he came, just his face being in the room at McEachern High School in their wrestling room when we had about, I don't know, 30 to 50 kids. But he came for the day, and after everything that had happened, and I really appreciated that he did that. Spent the day there, and then obviously I saw him later on, him and his wife and all that. But so I also had, obviously, like I said, I had Kurt Angle, who was going to work my camp too, the day after he finished competing. So he ends up,
The day
not only
after.
does he make the Olympic team, again, I'm thinking to myself, like, the guys that I asked, hey, let's do a camp.
Kind of a big deal.
They make the Olympic team. Then Kurt Angle ends up winning the gold medal with a broken neck.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
amazing. I'm glad you even said that. With a broken neck, broke his neck at the Olympic trials, sat around, didn't train a lot, just had a unbelievable hard-nosed will attitude.
Yeah.
Doctor had to take care of him, wins the Olympic gold medal, and
Yeah.
take it from there.
Yeah, so I'm in the stands the night before, obviously watching him win gold, and he wins gold, and the next day, I can't remember how we were communicating, because back then I think it was a beeper or whatever it
No
was.
smoke signals, right? Because there was no cell phones back then.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, our plan was to meet outside the Olympic Village. So early in the morning, I drove into the city. Olympic Village was basically Georgia Tech. They had built these brand new dorms.
The
That was
Ramblin'
Olympic.
Wreck. I know. I've been there.
So I pull up to the Olympic Village, and I'm like, I really don't expect him to make it. He just won the Olympic gold medal last night. He's
Guy's
probably was
tired,
out.
excited,
Maybe he was out all night,
celebrating.
probably talking to the news, the media. He may be at a news station right now for all we know. And this is like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, because the camp was going to start at 9. So I pull up, and I'm there probably an hour, and I pull up. I'm probably there about an hour, and I'm thinking he's not. I'll wait a couple more minutes, But I totally understand if he wasn't going to show up. And
Lo and behold,
there he is.
whoa,
He's
whoa,
he's
there
walking
he
up with
is.
Olympic gold medal around his neck.
Jumps
in my truck.
The real jingle, huh? The real
Kurt
look
Angle,
at this.
there he is with the gold medal around his neck, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, Schiff?" So I was like,
Whoa,
"Man,
the
I can't
professor
I'm
getting
like,
called Schiff. I like
and I'm
that.
like, wow, this is, because he's my friend, but I
Yeah.
was still like,
Deja
wow,
vu.
I was in awe. Like,
You're a fan.
I can't believe that you still came, man. That really means a lot. So we go out to the camp, and there was a newspaper that shows up. There's a small newspaper, and he was there, taking pictures with all the kids and all that. The newspaper did a little article on him, and but that them doing that, having made the Olympics and being busy, and still thinking about these kids and going out there, and still wanting to be in front of those kids and spend time with them, and fulfilling their commitment to me, which they really didn't have to do, really meant a lot. That was like an Olympic memory that I will never forget. And here's the kicker. 20 years later, I moved back down to Atlanta. I'm in the head coach's house in the basement, and he has framed the article, and it has a picture of Kurt Angle and all the kids that were in the camp. And it's framed up in his basement, because I hadn't really thought about it in a while. And I see this, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. So that's
an Olympic
memory right there.
Tom, that is an Olympic memory. I don't have anything to rival that. Usually I'm not at a loss for words, but you've professed it all there, Tom. That's the best. And God, that's the way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Tom, you're blessed.
Yeah.
Great group of friends, great things about that. Folks, that's an Olympic memory that will not be beaten. So there it was. We're going to be right back after these messages to wrap up this week's podcast.
Western New York Immediate Care's new locations are now open. Whether you've suffered a minor injury or just aren't feeling well, Western New York Immediate Care provides safe, quick, high-quality care at an affordable cost. Our clinicians are trained to diagnose and treat non-life-threatening injuries and illnesses and are equipped with on-site x-ray and labs to help you feel better, faster. With 4 convenient locations open 7 days a week, Western New York Immediate Care is here to help when and where you need us. Visit us online to learn more.
Logistics Plus is a global transportation provider headquartered in Erie, PA with locations worldwide, including right here in Western New York. Logistics Plus is consistently recognized as a fast-growing transportation and logistics company, great supply chain partner, top freight broker, leading project cargo manager, and a great place to work. With a strong passion for excellence, our 500-plus employees put the plus in logistics.
Or an efficient personal approach for all of your transportation needs. More information about our Buffalo office is available at logisticsplus.com/Buffalo.
Welcome back to Wrestling Ramblings with Muskie and the Professor Tom Shifflet. That was a great segment, Tom. I mean, my goodness, that's all I could think of. You're a blessed man, my friend.
Yeah.
Blessed man. But
It's
you
bigger.
know,
It's bigger than wins and losses. I mean, it's that type of friendship, that type of.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's time for parting shots, and here's my parting shot. And I know you have one. How blessed are we to be in this sport? I mean, I have some great friends, the professor included. I went to a great high school. I have some of the best wrestling coaches. They've all become my friends. I've met Olympic gold medalists, silver medalists, people who did those things, and we're friends, Tom. They do anything for anybody. They take time away from their families. They do anything. It's a tight-knit community. Here in Wrestling Ramblings, we tell you the truth, and that's what it is. I mean, look, go back and listen to Lou Roselli and you and him just chewing the fat a little bit, saying this is what it was and Shifty, and then you get to support them at the 1996 Olympics, and Kurt Angle comes to hang out with you. Wow. Hey, Tim said maybe we should get Kurt Angle on there. We're gonna have to work on that one. But there's other people. I think about when I was a young kid. I went to the Brockport camp when I was growing up in Edinburgh. We meet all those Olympic champions. The one I remember, I met John Smith, and that low single. He goes, "Hey, you and me." Look at this big nose. They know me, right? I sold his posters, Tom. These guys, they talk to you. Then we go to the NCAA tournament, and they still remember you. Bruce remembers me after 40 years, Tom. 40 years we went to his camp. 1984, Edinburgh. Your dad took us. You were on the team. We were there. We met him and other people, Charlie Hurd, you name it, and did those things. But all I'm trying to say for my parting shot is I love being a part of the wrestling community. If it's not coaching, it's hanging around, watching it, being a fan. I love calling matches. Wrestling's been so good to me, and I shared with you, and I'm envious, but I'm going to work for it. You got to work the Olympic Games. That's my last swan song. That's the last thing I want to do. 2028 in Los Angeles is work whatever they want me to do at the event there at the Olympic Wrestling just to say that it's done. So I'm thankful, like I said to Lou, thanks for coming on. Let's go USA. I'm excited to watch the wrestling. Your parting shot.
Yeah. So, obviously, thanks again to Lou for taking the time to come on here. We got to get him on here again. There's a lot more we can discuss with him because he's got his brain is working all the time when it comes to wrestling, and I love to listen to him. That's why, again, I brought my daughter to him just to be a part around him. And again, he's my friend. But when I just think about wrestling, I could spend an entire day or weekend with him in the wrestling room. Because,
and you get energized.
Yes, and it motivates me to want to come back and do more. So a couple of announcements is one, next week, please tune in because we're going to have Alex Conti, who is now officially the head coach at Buffalo State. We're going to have him on. But also because of the Olympics, because he's obviously someone with a ton of experience on the Olympic level, has coached some of the girls who are on the team right now, has a past with them, and so he's going to share his perspective on the Olympic Games and the women's team side. And then we've been talking about this clinic on August 25th, but we sign up again. It's a free clinic. It's for the coaches. We got to have officials for next season for the girls for the first freestyle high school season, And then anybody who's interested in coming out for girls freestyle, please, we're gonna have a clinic, so it's at St. Mary's High School,
In
August
Lancaster.
25th. It's on a Sunday. It's gonna be 3-4 hours. Love to have you. And I'll be reaching out to some of the organizations and some of the coaches just to, push them a little bit, because this is an important event for Western New York.
Let me piggyback off that and just make sure that people understand this. Number one, it's free. It doesn't get any better than that. Number two, it's about growth. We just asked Lou Roselli, what can you do? You need to find some energy. You need to get some material. It's going to happen right there.
Yeah.
We need officials. Listen, all of our high school wrestling officials, we need you to come out. We need you to check this out. Please come support this effort. We want Section 6 to be the best. Parents and athletes, come out and see what the sport's about. We'll take time to answer questions. Anything that you need, it's here. It's time to get yourself indoctrinated, understand what the sport is, and do those things. So please come out to Lancaster, St. Mary's High School, and come support this great event. Tom, what a great podcast
Yep.
today. We really brought the thunder today. I mean, you brought Sweet Lou brought him back to Section 6 wrestling. I like the part where you and him were beating up on each other, and then in the end, he got you. But hey, things happen. We've all taken a good beating. But he's a great friend. He's really he brought a smile to your face, and that's what I'm happy to see. I mean, again, let me just say before we sign off, tonight's a great night. Tune in and watch the opening ceremonies of the Olympics. Wrestling's going to be coming on. We got Alex Conti. We're bringing you the Section 6 history here, folks, at Wrestling Ramblings. We're talking all things coaching, all things wrestling. That's what it's about. So let's say goodbye for today. For the Professor Tom Shifflet, I'm Joe Muscarella. Thank you for tuning in to Wrestling Ramblings, and we'll see you again next week.